I am Jason Fordham with Bronto. I'm the Director of Business Development and work with companies like iGo Digital. So I'm happy to present John Dynas of iGo Digital, who is the Director of Strategic Accounts, if I got that correct. And a quick background about John. I've met him a few times, and so I can tell you that, one, he's getting married in June, so congratulations to John. Two, he does like beer, which is also another common fact with Darren, that they both like beer, and they're going to have some tonight. And third, you will see a prize-winning pig in his presentation, since he does show pigs competitively. So I can say that. He is from Indiana, so that's not shocking. Yes, 4-H is in the house for sure. And then we have Darren Baldwin, who runs the e-commerce. What's the title officially?
Whatever you want to call it.
He runs e-commerce for Dungarees, and he's been doing it. He's been at Dungarees for 5 years now, and I think he's due for a sabbatical, from what I remember. I'll let them get started, and please, if you do enjoy the presentation, or if you want to provide feedback, use the hashtag of hashtag #VSUM12. I failed to mention this last time, and I apologize if you were in the room before. So, please. And there will be a question and answer session at the end of it. So, good luck.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. So kind of as I was preparing for this presentation, I started watching some TED Talks. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with TED Talks, but it's a great way to go online, kind of get some inspiration just around cool ideas. And one of the pieces that I ultimately viewed was a spot on Andrew Stanton, and what really he was talking about was how to create a great story. And part of this great story really comes in 3 different pieces. One, you got to have a really compelling opening. So you got to be able to draw people in from the get-go. Second, the second piece of that is you got to have very engaging content. You got to be able to connect with everybody in a certain story. And third, you got to have a singular purpose. So there's got to be a singular purpose to a story. And all 3 of these things that I was watching are really tied back to how we should be emailing and how we should be marketing to our consumers. It really goes back to creating a story. And maybe a 4th part to that, an email is really all about understanding who our segment, who our target audience is. And so that's really what we're talking to you guys about today, is personalized trigger emails. How to turn eRetail browsers into buyers. And this is really all about connecting your consumers, speaking with us on a one-to-one level, and understanding who that consumer ultimately is. So, as Jason said, my name is John Dynas. I'm the Director of Strategic Accounts at iGo Digital. You can tweet. I am actively on Twitter. You may have seen me on the VSUM, JM Dynas. Please feel free. And then, of course, my email. So, as Jason said, I am a Purdue grad. That is a picture of my fiance and I. We are getting married in June, so right around the corner. There is my prize-winning pig. I'm actively in the 4-H around Indiana, and that's my family and family-in-law at the Allen County Fairgrounds. So, a little bit of interesting things about me. And of course, I race motorcycles. So those are kind of the 3 random facts about me that I thought I'd throw out just to kind of give you a personal piece. And then a little bit about iGo Digital. So ultimately, we believe that as marketers and retailers, we should be speaking with our customers on an individual level. Whether that comes across in your email, whether that comes across on your site experience and in-store, each one of us should ultimately understanding who that consumer is and marketing to them on a one-to-one level. We work with a wide array of customers. We'll be showing some examples, quite a few examples from the Bronto community today. And then happy, if you guys do have any questions, my shameless ploy, we do have a booth out there, so feel free to stop by and ask any questions following up. Now I'll turn it over to Darren to introduce himself.
All right. Thanks, John. That's a fine-looking pig you had up there. As John said, I'm Darren Baldwin, Director of E-commerce at Dungarees.net. And again, you can feel free to email me if anybody has any questions after the show or during the show, but I probably won't answer it until afterwards. And I've been at Dungarees since about 2007. There we go. I also went to the University of Missouri. When we had to turn in this presentation, I decided to make a bold prediction. Didn't realize we'd be the fourth number 2 seed in the last 30 years to go out in the first round, but unfortunately it did. So All right, so a little bit about dungarees.net. We're a retailer of work apparel and work footwear primarily. We've had two retail stores open in St. Louis and Columbia, Missouri since 2000. And in 2004, we launched dungarees.net. We've had pretty solid double-digit growth every year since that time. And this year, we've actually been named to the Internet Retailer Top 500. So we're pretty pleased with that. Here's a screenshot of our homepage. And that's about it for dungarees.net. I'm going to go ahead and get this back over to John, and he'll take it from here.
Thanks, Darren. So we'll just kind of recap or kind of preference what we're going to talk about today. What we really hope you guys are able to take out of this session is that you need to be speaking with your customers on a one-to-one level. I've said that 3 or 4 times already today, and I think that's probably the most important piece when it comes to this. We need to be remarketing to customers based on their behavior on their site. So looking outside of companion cart email, but really looking at what is that consumer actively doing on my site. After a purchase, we need to be creating an experience that builds loyalty, that builds a brand loyalty. As we've talked about, and you guys have heard across a lot of these other presentations, is that this is a big piece. It's driving that customer back to your site to make that second email. We have a capability together to be able to do that. Technology can help you answer these goals. Lots of great vendors out there that can help you do a lot of these things we'll talk about. Probably the most important piece is that we all need to be very innovative. We need to continue to innovate because as more people will start coming into the online retail space, every day you read internet retail or you read those pieces that people are really continuing to innovate. This is a key piece, and we hope that you leave here with a new drive to want to continue to innovate to each of your customers. So we'll start it off. We're going to break this into 2 sections. So the first section will be recapturing email, and the second piece will be talking about branding after the purchase. But at first, we're going to kind of take just a whole look. And I'm sure some of you guys saw this piece come out a couple weeks ago, but how important is the internet to people in general? And it's quite astonishing. I mean, what this is all saying right up here is that this is the percentage of people willing to give up lifestyle habits instead of the internet for a year. And so what I'm really trying to get at is that people are willing to give up a lot. The internet is important, it's ingrained into our life. 7% are willing to give up a shower, 21% are willing to give up sex, coffee, 69%, 73% alcohol, fast food at 83%. I mean, this is, for a whole year, this is a lot to give up. And that's how important this really all comes back to how important is the internet. And so what are consumers ultimately doing? What are people doing when they're online? And so I took this stat from the Retailer Web Design Conference down in Orlando, and they did a study across all these different customers, and people were ultimately, during a relaxation period, visiting 50 different websites. So this is looking at Facebook and social medias and blogs and all those different pieces that go on online. So these customers are hyperactive, and what's happening is that there's so many different actions that are going on. Even if customers are coming to your retail site, it's very easy to forget who you are because ultimately what's happening is they're going to Twitter and they're going to all these different places to visit different information. So now let's take a look now. We're trying to look at the full view online shoppers. So in 2010, you may have seen this from Forrester come out as well. $177 billion online. In 2016, we're looking at $327 billion online. So what this means to you guys as retailers is it's getting incredibly competitive out there. It's going to continue to grow, which is a great thing. But people are going to continue to invest online. And as you look at it, as retailers start to grow, you're going to need to be able to create a brand. And so what's going to happen is what you want is these customers to come back to your site and understand who you are today. So when that scales up to that $327 billion, these customers aren't going to a new competitor, a new exciting retail site. They're visiting yours, and that's done through brand loyalty and remarketing and really engaging your customers on a one-to-one level. So what do shoppers do? We know shoppers browse. So they're coming to the site, they're shopping just like they normally would. They're doing research. So customers are very savvy, and this has been seen through some of the case studies that you see on Best Buy coming through, is that people are so savvy online that they're researching all the different appliances, and when they get to Best Buy, they know more than the blue shirts. So customers are so savvy online, they're doing a lot of research, they're visiting different sites, and so they're looking for price points, free shipping, all those things that we understand they're looking for, and so that's really a key piece to understanding. So there's browse, there's research, they're moving through, then ultimately they're making a purchase. They're doing exactly what we want them to do, they're purchasing. However, they're running, and they're running in droves. And what we've seen across all of this is consumers are running at such big numbers, somewhere between 1.3 and 5.6 of consumers that are on your site are converting. So that still leaves somewhere between 98 and 96% of customers that are on your site that aren't converting. And so what they are doing is they're giving us information while they're on their site. They're telling us what they're interested in. They're looking at all kinds of different pieces. And so we can take this data, as we've seen, we can take this data, and yes, they may not be converting, but we can move them down that conversion funnel by understanding ultimately who that shopper is. So how do we chase them down? It's a really good question, and really how do we fight for their wallet share? So all of us as retailers in here ultimately end up fighting for wallet share. So even if you're outside of a competitive industry, certainly if somebody's looking for a TV, you're competing against other electronics, or people are looking for sunglasses, you're looking for other sunglasses. But we're really competing against everybody in here. There's only so much money that can go around for an individual. So if a mom ultimately is purchasing shoes and clothing for her children, then she's not going to have the money to buy that new television. So we need to keep that in mindset that we're not just competing against our competitors, but we're also competing against each other in really a lot of different ways, because there's only so much money a consumer can spend. And so that's really important. We look at all these different pieces, how we reach out to these customers and through that clutter, ultimately make sure that we're reaching these customers on an individual level, engaging them in really compelling content. So how do we chase them down? So really we've got to look at a number of different things. First, we need to collect and store all shopper behaviors, from clicks all the way through purchases. So we need to understand, where is that customer coming from? What are they clicking on? What products are they clicking at? We need to determine the most important behavior. So if we're going to automate remarketing messages, if we're going to automate these messages, we need to understand what the most important piece of this is. We need to remarket and engage that shopper on a one-to-one level. So as you've heard a lot about one-to-one, I mean, we really need to understand who is this customer, and we need to talk to them on an individual basis. And of course, the last and kind of point that was drove home, and last, we need to be testing and optimizing the results. So let's talk about understanding the behavior. So when we're looking at behavior, there's kind of 4 quadrants, and we kind of put a little infographic here. There's really 4 pieces. There's, of course, the purchases that consumers make. And they're telling us what they're interested in. You know, for me, this is just a profile of myself, but I'm interested in Colts gear. I'm from Indianapolis, so of course, I'm cheering for the Colts, even though our local team is now kind of put in pieces, but that's all right. So you can see purchases, and so that's kind of the key first piece of that. And lots of us are collecting purchases, and if we're not, we're probably in trouble. The second piece is carts. So what are those customers putting into the shopping cart? And so this is an action where you can start saying, all right, let's do an abandoned cart email. Of course, your product views. So now we're looking at not just your shopping carts, but your product views. And so you can see that I'm also interested in Purdue, as you guys know. So I looked at hats and these different pieces. Really most important, what's most important about a customer is really their behavior and what we believe is the most important piece to a consumer. And so if we really look at this here, this is kind of another visual graph of how we would look at a consumer. For me, you can see that we're ultimately able to understand who this consumer is. So for me, Indiana is the most important attribute. Also, Colts and Purdue are very important pieces. Now, for all different retailers, there's different attributes that drive your customers and your customers' actions and decisions. And so understanding their behavior, understanding their clicks and their behavior and who they are on an individual level is really the key piece to being able to determine the right action. And so there's lots of different actions that you can do. Of course, the shopping cart abandonment is the most popular remarketing email out there. But we really encourage retailers to go further than that. Take that a step further. Because not everybody's putting an item in their shopping cart, but they are visiting your site and they are doing things. So here's an example of an American Muscle. It's a good Bronto customer. And what ultimately we're doing is we're taking a category. So this consumer has come to look at a category. They haven't done anything but look at a category, in this case, air filters. And we're triggering an email to that consumer saying, hey, we saw that you were on the site. Now, here's a reason to come back. And we're providing them options to come back. And this is all dynamic content. So, you need to be dynamic with this. And so this is speaking to them. It's showing that, hey, we saw what you're doing. We understand who you are and what you're interested in. Now we've got a really good way to draw that consumer back to that individual, or back to that individual site, excuse me. Some other ones, back in stock, so products go out of stock. We've got consumers that look at it and that product comes back in stock. We should remind everybody that's looked at it. Of course, new sale item, customized, all those different pieces. But really what we should be looking at is best practices. So how do we move them through that story? How do we create that story that I talked about at the beginning? The first piece of that is really in that product name in the subject line. So understanding, hey, you've come to our site, let's dynamically inject in that subject line that you've abandoned performance parts, that you've abandoned a certain product. It takes that moving from, hey, you've abandoned something to, we know what you've abandoned. It's moving people further in through that open rate. And so that's really the first piece of that, because we gotta promise that customer, hey, this email is worth opening. We know what you've been through. So an email for here is our top picks and performance. So that's a subject line that's a little bit more engaging than just top picks on AmericanMuscle.com. So you're able to take those two pieces and marry them. Put the image of the item, much like what we've got here. Show them visually what are they interested in. Put product recommendations. So take what we know about the consumer, even if they've looked at one product, show other products that may have interest of them. For whatever reason, it may not be the purchase product they're most interested in, but put up product recommendations. Link to a saved cart, very important, especially if they're abandoning a shopping cart, or link back to the product page that they're on. Test ideal send times, and of course consider drip campaigns. Follow up with these consumers on a follow-up basis. That'll allow you to do a lot of different things and re-engage the customers that didn't even open that first email. So here's an example, another Bronto example here of an iGo Digital client that we're working with called Coffee for Less. And so, as we talked about, you want to have something, you left something behind. So these are 3 products right here that a consumer has looked at on Coffee for Less and then ultimately didn't purchase. So we have an ability as marketers to say, hey, here's the product that you've looked at. It's simple, it's clean, and it really allows that consumer to get right back into it. What we've also done as another piece here is just to add product recommendations, something that you may also like. So taking now an opportunity that they've looked at 6 products, they've looked at 3 products, but now they've got an option of 6 to come back to dramatically increase the reason for that consumer to come back to your site. And be creative. The abandoned carts especially. I mean, everybody's starting to send an abandoned cart, and everybody should be sending an abandoned cart. But you need to be creative in your language, because what we're going to continue to see is these emails are going to become more what's the word I'm looking for? An everyday email, for lack of a better term. And so we need to be creative. So remember this item. Remind that customer why they came to your site. Let's start a party. So Shindig's, the whole brand is around let's start a party. So they've got creative language in here with product recommendations. And lastly, my favorite from a company called Better World Books. It's called Message from Your Books. Don't leave us. It gives the retailer kind of a voice. It creates a brand behind it. So if you're sending abandoned cart emails, I certainly recommend you to be creative. Make your email stand out a little bit differently than what you would see in a competitive situation. So, and then finally, let's just test and optimize. So when we look at the first pieces, test subject lines. For some people, you forgot something really does work, and that'll get some people into your site or your email. But don't forget product name. Put that product name right in there, and allow that customer to be reminded mentally, hey, we sent you an email because we know you're interested in this. Test the items you're merchandising, especially in a product abandonment email. Test different rules, different products that you should abandon, because ultimately, maybe you're trying to push high margin items, or maybe you're trying to push different things. So test those pieces to understand what's going to drive the click rate and then ultimately the conversion rate. Send times, I think this has been preached on very heavily, but test it. For some retailers, it's an hour right after a consumer has abandoned. Darren has tested it, and he'll tell you otherwise. And so there's just make sure you're testing the send times. And of course, the special offer. There's a big debate out there, and people will tell you both ways. My encouragement for you guys is don't put a special offer in the first email. You'll encourage bad behavior. From what we've seen across these customers, put it in a second or third email, a drip campaign to follow up. There's always that if you're trying to drive more traffic, but if your customers now realize that if they abandon a shopping cart, you give them 20% off right away. Customers are savvy; they're going to figure that out. So that's a little bit about kind of setting up Darren to tell you a little bit about how he's actually doing it. So I'll turn everything over to him.
All right, thanks, John. A lot of good tips we can all take away from that. So let me just kind of talk about the process we went through to determine that we had a problem with abandoned carts and how we came to a solution to solve that. So as you can see, 50% of our carts are being abandoned. We obviously looked at that as being a pretty significant number. Knew there had to be some lost revenue in that amount of carts. So our solution, we wanted to pull those customers back to get them to make a conversion, obviously. So before we really got into finding out what the solution is, we wanted to determine what are the typical reasons people are abandoning their carts. We know for a fact people will continually search for dungarees.net coupons. And just the fact that they're going out there and searching for these, there's greater risk of them finding another coupon or not coming back to our site. So that was something we definitely knew we had to deal with. Price comparisons, whether it's the comparison shopping engines or just searching on Google or going straight to a competitor, those are significant reasons that people are leaving. Maybe the customer is just being indecisive. They have a short attention span these days, so they could just maybe not know whether they want to spend that much, whether they really want to buy it with you. So we just wanted to make that decision easy by getting back in front of them. So we did decide to go with an abandoned cart email, and we knew one of the things we wanted to do was to provide alternative recommendations based on the cart that they're viewing. We also wanted to add extra incentives, whether that be something that we're already doing on the site. We always provide free shipping at $55. So we wanted to either put something like that in front of them, maybe create a separate promotion just for these emails that as a free item or a discount off or something similar like that. One thing we were pleasantly surprised with after we got this implemented was the amount of responses we got back from customers. The first thing we were kind of a little concerned about was that the abandoned carts are a little bit intrusive, that the customers would kind of fight that a little bit and complain that we're soliciting them, thinking that they're now subscribed to a marketing list or something like that. But pretty much all the feedback's been positive. It's simple questions like, oh yeah, I wasn't sure about the size or the shipping or the color of something, and we're able to answer that pretty much immediately, and a lot of times make the sale. So before I dive into the metrics of the abandoned cart, you can see one of our typical email messages up here. It's just a free giveaway with a minimum amount of purchase. So our typical open rate, 17%, typical click-through rate of 25%, and a conversion rate of 6%. And just to kind of make a metric to make it easy to compare, that comes out to be almost 3 orders for every 1,000 that's sent. So our abandoned cart email actually goes out 24 to 48 hours after they abandon. So if they start their cart and abandon it at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, they're going to get it the next evening, Wednesday night. So you can see the metrics on this: a 56% open rate, a 14% click-through rate, and a 17% conversion rate. And the 13 orders per 1,000 is much higher, especially if you compare them here next to each other. That's almost triple that of a typical marketing email. This actually dips a little bit, which we're actively trying different testing to see what we can do to improve that a little bit. And you also see the conversion rate is triple. And the bottom line is really all we care about. That's about quadruple the amount. So that was our abandoned cart email. Another thing we're starting to use, which iGo Digital just released a couple months ago, is behavior-based emails using their segment builder. Now this allows us to target all kinds of different behaviors as far as what type of orders they made, and the average order value, how many purchases, the day since the last purchase. That's some of the behaviors that you deal with post-purchase. You can also do demographic as far as where they came from. Maybe they're AdWords traffic or direct traffic. Maybe they're coming from a competitor. Maybe they're coming from one of your manufacturers that you carry. You could tailor emails specific to them. Or you could tell obviously where they are, city, state, or zip, be able to tailor something unique to that. The main thing we've been using this for so far is just category abandonment. For instance, they view a certain product and they haven't purchased that product. So we've done a few emails on this so far. Here's actually, this is the first one we did. We happened to be running a coat special at the time anyway, so we made that front and center on the email. So this was, our entire, I think we did a couple month range of anyone that viewed jackets that didn't convert on jackets. And we sent them this email. You can see down here we have star ratings of those products, the pricing, and then the latest review of that product. So click-through rate, 44%, I'm sorry, open rate, 44%. Hey, John.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Cancel.
I'm going to cancel that too. Click-through rate of 50%, conversion rate of 4, and that comes out to 8.5 orders per 1,000 sent. So comparing that to just a typical marketing email and the abandoned cart, really high open rate compared to the typical marketing. The click-through rate we were insanely surprised by. That just doubled our typical marketing email and blew the abandoned cart out of the water. And the conversion rate was actually a little bit lower. We haven't really had enough time to analyze why. But 8.5, kind of closer to the abandoned cart email. But obviously this is for us anyway, a lot bigger volume-wise email than just the abandoned cart. So things we're looking to expand on and do in the future as far as abandoned cart and retargeting emails is adding product ratings and reviews. This is kind of an example, and since we made this presentation, we've actually implemented this. I don't have any data on it yet, but now it shows the star rating, how many reviews there are, and the latest customer review. So this is on the abandoned cart email. So it's one of the things we're trying to do to increase the click-through rate, which is one of the only metrics that was a little bit low in our opinion. And a drip campaign. Kind of as John mentioned, a lot of people are sending these abandoned cart emails 1, 5, 10 hours after the cart's abandoned. The reason we chose 24 to 48 is because a lot of ours are incentive-based, where we're giving them a discount or a free item with it. We didn't want to throw that in their face while they're still probably going to check out anyway. So doing a drip campaign would allow us to maybe retarget them, an hour afterwards with no incentive, and then still wait that 24 to 48 hours to send an incentive-based email if they still haven't converted. And that's everything I got for abandoned cart.
Great, thank you. So for the second part of it, we talked about kind of the remarketing piece of that, and that's obviously a key piece to driving conversions. Really what the second piece that we want to talk about is building a loyal repeat customer with email. So how do you take that customer who's purchased already once, that you know a lot about, and turn that into a loyal repeat customer? And so we've done it. We've converted a shopper to a customer. We're excited, we're happy, we're able to ship that product out. But really we need to be thinking about now what? Now how do we re-engage with that customer? How do we start building a brand? How do we start making sure that the consumer, when they go back and look for a product or similar products or product that'll go along, they'll come back to our brand and they'll know our name and type that right into their search instead of typing in generic search terms. So it's really a key piece that you can do with email is building a brand. Whoops. So just some food for thought, and this is just a quote that I took from Walmart, and I stole from one of the other conferences that I went to, but it's cheaper and more effective to make current customers more loyal than to spend money attracting new customers. Lee Scott from the CEO of Walmart. So as marketers, it's really something we should be thinking about, and I imagine most of you guys do think about this on a day-to-day basis. So I just want to give you a couple tips on how to ultimately create that experience. So first of all, brand your delivery. Second of all, keep the customers informed on their products while introducing relevant products. Third, ask the customer to review your brand and merchandise. Fourth, ask for a referral. This is something that I think it's very important. I'll give you a good book reference that you can read if you're looking for more of a referral kind of customer. And then send a post-purchase trigger with one-to-one product merchandising. Make future touch points with personalized email. So first of all, branded delivery. If you have the capabilities to do this, you need to be doing it. I think we've all sat in our office or all been at home and one of these two boxes have shown up. An Amazon box or a Zappos box. And it instantly gets people talking. What'd you get from Amazon? What'd you get from Zappos? And it's a fairly simple way of marketing. It's word of mouth marketing. It allows that customer to know, hey, my box is here. Well, whoops. What you also need to do is make sure you're delivering on time. And kind of outside of the email, both of these pieces, but it's really an important piece to start branding your brand. That makes sense. Keep the customers informed. So send your trigger or your transactional emails, and in those transactional emails, start making product recommendations. If the consumer's buying jeans, make sure you're showing shirts that are in there. If consumers are buying electronic, like in this example here from Best Buy, put related products. Show that customer that there's other products that go along with their experience. Now, one of the things that you have to make sure you're doing in this is a transactional email. So you have to make sure that it is informative in nature. So make sure that you don't take up too much space with the product recommendations. And test which ones you're putting these into. Some customers don't like to receive their order confirmation with product recommendations in them. It seems like you're maybe pushing something down their throat instantly. But you've got a shipping, shipping confirm email. So and that may be a good opportunity to re-engage that customer from a standpoint of product recommendations. And as we know, these emails are opened at a pretty astronomical rate, 70% or greater. It's really a great opportunity to take what you have. We know a lot about that customer and then merchandise products. And this is something you can do if you don't just merchandise products. I encourage you to put a banner in there, or just talk about special offers that you have coming up, or new products. You don't have to put personalized product recommendations, but it is a great way to drive that customer back to your site in a shorter amount of time. The third is send a review request and ask for a referral. This is a key piece for a number of different reasons, all the way from search engine optimization and different pieces along those lines. But really gets that customer again back to your site. If they give you a review, if they're thrilled with your product, have them come back and send a rating and review. But more importantly, if this customer comes back and they're thrilled, as I were for these shoes, ask for a referral. Ask this customer to tell somebody else about who and what they experienced. And so online shoes, I'm now telling you right now all about online shoes. So the referral is just a really great way to connect customers. And it's not as measurable, and that's difficult in our world, I understand that. But if a customer says, hey, I love these, send them an email, say, tell a friend, maybe give them a $10 gift card to tell a friend. It's an unbelievable way. And so this is the book I was talking about. I've read it several times. It's called The Referral Engine. Highly encourage you guys to read it if you have an opportunity. It talks all about the different kinds of referral engine, so to speak, if you're interested in asking referral and driving more word of mouth advertising. Lastly, or not lastly, but along the same path, make recommendations. This is something that Amazon has started. So at our office, we have a dartboard. And so in a follow-up email, a couple days or weeks later, I can't remember how long this came, but they very smartly said, hey, you may be interested in darts. You may be interested in all the pieces that go along with the dartboard. So make recommendations. It's a post-purchase email that you can send. You can send it a week later, 2 weeks later, but if you understand what that customer has bought, show them other products, trigger that email, and show them other products that go along in there. Again, you can do different things. A double-day book club here shows you what you ordered. And this is a number, it shows you what you ordered. It reconfirms that you made a purchase on their site. And you can then allow that customer from this kind of email either to go back directly to that product detail page if they want to look at it, or you can link them. You can use this as another way to drive more reviews on your site. You can link them right back to your review page. Allow you to drive more content. And then show them other recommendations. So interested in Tom Clancy, show other books. You can send this a couple days later, a couple weeks later. It really just depends on how often your customers purchase and really what the lifetime cycle of that customer is. But it's definitely a piece to test. And for Amazon, it works great. I imagine if you purchased from Amazon, you've received an email like this. And then make future touch points relevant. So as you're sending marketing emails, make future touch points relevant, especially for that first, 30 to 90 days later, 1 to 30 to 90 days later. And ultimately what you want to do is make that email engaging to that consumer. So even if you're just sending your mass email, segment those customers out and make them feel a little bit special about what they're doing. They just purchased on your site. You know a lot about that individual. Make their email a little bit more segmented, or just add in, in a world where you have a personalization partner, add in product recommendations into a marketing email. You can still create your content on top and then put product recommendations into that email. And this is another example of what you can do. And so as new products are coming in, so in this example, this consumer bought a children's book, and a new children's book arrived on their site. So a new product arrived, then we know that, hey, this consumer is interested in children's books. Let's show them the new book that just came in. We know a lot, again. And then also show them recommendations. And so they allowed us to show a little bit of their data, but you can see that they send quite a few of these emails. They're opened at about a 50% rate, and the click-through rate is at 24%. So now we've taken that from just a mass email to really be able to connect with that customer multiple steps past the purchase, and you're being able to develop that brand. So when instantly they think, well, I need a book, they're not going to Barnes & Noble for this case. They're going to come back and look at Children's Book of the Month because that's the brand that they know. And so just as a recap, the post-purchase strategy tips. Inject recommendations into your transactional emails based on their reach of the purchase. If you can't do the product recommendations in there, put some sort of banner, some sort of piece that's going to draw them back to your site and creating that brand. Oh, sorry, Darren. Send a thank you message and ask for a review. Thank that customer. It can go a long way just by saying thank you. Trigger post-purchase email that merchandises relevant products. Again, ask for a referral. This is, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest things we can be doing across all of our different groups. All of our customers are in some sort of niche when they purchase your product, and so they probably have other friends and family that are doing the exact same thing. So make sure you ask for that referral, especially if they're happy. Personalize future marketing emails and provide exceptional customer service and make it easy for that customer ultimately to reach out to you. So those are a couple post-purchase strategy tips. I'm now going to turn it back over to Darren to talk a little bit about how he's doing some of these pieces in his world.
All right, thanks. I'd like to dispute your recommendation for online shoes. My wife has bought like 20 pairs for my 2-year-old daughter, which... Okay, so some of the things that we are doing post-purchase. Obviously, order confirmation and shipping confirmation emails. Not exactly groundbreaking ideas there. If anyone here isn't doing those with your e-commerce transactions, that's one of the first things you should probably do when you get back. Obviously, as John said, 70% open rate. There's no better place to put whatever message you want to convey to your customer on. So this is an example of our order confirmation. Actually, we're not currently doing this, but this is the layout of what we're going to do, adding some recommendations on iGo Digital's algorithm to this email. And we're still kind of on the fence whether we want to add this to our shipping or our confirmation or both. Just some of the key points that John mentioned as the negatives. We also feel that it could potentially create a lot of order changes and kind of bog down our customer service. If an order gets placed and they get a confirmation email, directly afterwards, they're calling in to make a change because we recommended something they like better. So we're all for making recommendations, but we don't particularly want to be changing the current order. But we're going to test that out and see how it works. So I've just hit that. And another thing we're doing is we work with Bazaar Voice to send out product review emails. These go out 3 weeks after it's shipped. We feel that gives the customer enough time to try out the product and still have it kind of top of mind. And we've gotten a huge response from that. There's huge benefits to having these reviews. Anybody that also has a hand in the SEO of your company knows how important it is to have this content in line on your site. It also helps your merchandising department know which products are getting good reviews, which ones are getting bad reviews. It could also help your ordering department as far as pre-booking orders. placing new orders on products that come out, you have something to compare them to. And another thing that worked really well for us was adding an incentive to this email. This one is just a typical, write a review. There's really no reward for doing it, but most of them we've had an incentive as far as, get a free jacket or, get a discount off your order. That pretty much doubles the amount of reviews we get per send. So that's worked out really well for us. We've gotten a lot of good responses from it. And what we're hoping to do a little bit more in the future, we've just kind of started to dabble in the segment builder, and we've only done the category abandonment, which I showed you in the earlier slides. We also want to get into some of the other attributes that we can segment on. I don't know all the details of it, but I know that they can also connect with Facebook through Facebook Connect. That would allow us to get a lot of the information that they have in Facebook as far as what they like. Gender, location, maybe what their friends are doing. That would give us a lot more insight to be able to retarget them. And also keep testing. I can't say we've done the best job as far as testing different layouts and incentives and really analyzing the data. But that's something we really want to try to do better in the future. Just like the keynote earlier, she made a lot of good points of how testing can help. We also want to add some of the recommendations maybe on our typical marketing email. If we're have new products coming out, or we're doing just a promotion like I showed you earlier, like a buy something get something free, being able to throw just maybe product recommendations based on their browsing history below that might help entice the click-through rate. Okay. That's pretty much the end of the presentation. You have another slide after this?
One more.
Yep.
So just to recap the few takeaways, speak with your customers on a one-to-one level. There's a lot of different capabilities. There's a lot of segmentation tools through Bronto. Darren talked a little bit about the segmentation tool that we have out there, but be sure that you're speaking with your customers on a one-to-one level as much as possible, because ultimately knowledge is power when it comes to marketing. The more we know about the consumer, the more we know about their behavior and their clicks, we have really that ability. So when you leave here, see how really one-to-one you can get on your customers, and make sure that you're doing those pieces. Engage the customers based on their shopping behavior. So as those customers are coming to your site and they're part of that big group that's not making a purchase, that's not being in a shopping cart, be sure that you're remarketing those customers based on that behavior. Deliver a personalized post-purchase experience. Make sure that each customer that purchases something from your site feels special. Make them increase the lifetime value of that customer. Make sure that when they go and they're purchasing again, that they're coming to your site before they're moving anywhere else. And again, technology can help you accomplish these goals that are automated and personalized. And we haven't talked much about the automated piece of this, but you create a lot of these emails and you make them automated. And now you can come back and test them, and you can focus on some of the other strategy pieces. And then ultimately, continue to innovate. Again, this is the kind of the piece that we go back to, but continue to innovate. If you want to stay competitive in this growing space, as the big guys get bigger and they invest more, you got to be creative, you got to be innovative. And so make sure that you're out there thinking about different ways to ultimately reach your customers. And so that's a little bit about us, and we're happy to take questions now. No questions?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the segment builder tool that you mentioned?
Sure. The segment builder, really the basis behind it is people like Darren and some of our other customers ultimately knew that we had a lot of behavior data. So they knew we were collecting behavior based on what people were clicking on, what categories people were clicking on. And they wanted a way to be able to access that data. And so what we really wanted to create was a simple user interface that allowed you to come into our admin and say, show me anybody that's viewed coats, but not purchased coats in the last 30 days, or whatever that product category may be. And then create an email based around the target that you wanted to use. Now, what we didn't figure is we didn't think about all the ways retailers would ultimately use that product. And so now we've got people creating the post-purchase emails like Darren was talking about. Show me customers that have viewed this, and ultimately send an email out that way. So customers are starting to use a lot of that pieces where we're tying in Facebook data, which will be kind of neat ultimately to see how Facebook data correlates to email marketing and tie that all back into the segment builder. So it'll be kind of a neat tool that Darren's been using. And I don't know if you got anything else on that.
Just the data I showed earlier, I showed you the one email I sent with actually the incentive of the coat special. We've had, I think, 5 other category segments since that, and those had no incentive. It was just a creative, if we did, t-shirts, just a nice creative picture of the t-shirts, and then, some of the, best rated ones below it. And pretty much all of them came through with the exact same metrics, give or take. Some were higher than that one, some were lower. So I was a little surprised to see that with really no incentive on it. But we're pretty impressed with the results so far, the metrics.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, in terms of targeting the category abandonment, what if they're browsing and they go for multiple categories? Do you just pick and choose a random one to send that email, or do you have a system down to prioritize which category abandonment email to send to?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on which way you're doing it. If you're doing it completely automated, like some of the examples we showed you, there's a lot of different rules that you can build into this system. So you can do higher margin categories. So if customers looked at 4 different pieces, you can show higher margin items or higher priced items. And for example, electronics, you wouldn't want to show the higher margin items because then you'd end up showing them cables when they're actually looking at televisions. And so it's really, you have to, for us, when we were looking at it, we have to understand the retailer's ultimate goal. And so we have to understand which categories are more important to that individual. And so that's really what we have to learn from the retailer, because each retailer is uniquely different. So we have to understand, and then we prioritize categories. So we can say, all right, this is the category. If they've browsed 100 different categories, this is your most important category, this is your next most important category, and so on and so forth. So we were able to take in a lot of that data from the retailers to make sure we end up doing that piece. And we'll only send one category email, so that, even if they've viewed 6 of them, they won't be bombarded by 6 different category emails.
I should actually say that on our end, the way because I'm able to pull out whichever segments I want, the way we've ran it so far, and again, we're still just testing it, if the 5 emails that I sent had a customer viewed all 5 categories, they would have actually gotten all five emails. But you could easily, take out, I want everyone to view the shirts. You could either, go into Bronto and say, if I just sent this customer something, don't send them again. There's several ways to filter them out so you're not bombarding them with one, but we were doing like 1 a week. We didn't feel like it was something. But once we got into getting it more automated and we're sending them out, possibly, a different category every day, we'll probably realize there's a better solution there to filter them out.
Great question. Any other questions? Sure.
On the category emails, do you call out the fact that they've been viewing, that you realize that you're viewing these products, or do you not?
I don't believe, I think in the subject line, no, I don't believe we did in the ones we tested. I believe we just put in the subject line top rated coats. So we didn't actually call out the fact that they viewed them. But it's a good idea, something that might definitely be worth looking into and A/B testing it.
And an automated email, so one that we would send, we would advise you to call out and say, we've seen that you viewed, product X or category X. From what we've seen from, basic you were on our site to you viewed a certain category, the open rate's somewhere between 10 and 12% greater than what you'd see from just a generic subject line. So it just re-engages that customer from what we've seen. To re-engage that customer, reminds them, that they've been on your site. Again, I would definitely go back to what Darren said and test it, because for every demographic, for every retailer, it's different, and some people don't like to know that they're being watched. So having something a little more generic may be a little bit better. But you can test those pieces with Bronto or with iGo Digital or whoever that may be. But yeah, I would certainly encourage to test that piece. Anything else?
A question. How does the segment builder integrate with Bronto? Can you like view behavioral data using the Bronto UI, like the segment UI?
Not yet. So we've the product was actually launched, what, 3 weeks ago?
I'd say probably 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think you gave me access to it a couple weeks before the launch.
yeah. So as of right now, when you segment that, it just downloads into a CSV file, and you can reload that back into Bronto. And so you can take all of that data, and then you can do all your filters that you would normally do. Since we have an API with the Bronto folks already, it's kind of phase 1.5. So we'll be able to, when you push that target customer, download everything right into Bronto, and then you'll be able to target your customer. And, yeah, it's not a huge step, but it'll allow you to eliminate a couple minutes of downloading and uploading product.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to do. I mean, it is exactly what you said, right to a CSV file, and I just upload it into Bronto. It does only take 2 minutes, but it'll definitely be a plus when you can just, automation will come as you go. I know it's version 1, so that's something that they always said they had in their plans to do. So
yeah. The other piece of that is hopefully as we continue to build the product with Bronto, is to be able to take that and be able to, if Darren were to build a category, anybody that's viewed coats in the last 30 days, he'll be able to create that as an automated email. So then, every 30 days, instead of him having to go in there and build that, be able to trigger that right through Bronto and say, on the 30th day, let's take everybody that's viewed that product or viewed that category in the last 30 days and automate that. So again, that's probably version 2. So we got to get the integration done before we can start automating things. But those are all kind of the pieces that we look forward to doing with the Bronto folks. Great question. Anything else?
Thanks, guys.
all right.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm Jamie Tharp. I work with Jason Fordham on our business development team, and I work with our partners like iGo Digital and John. So I want to just encourage everybody, again, please feel free to stop by all the sponsor tables and talk to these guys about exactly how they're accomplishing joint solutions between Bronto and our partners, and feel free to seek out people like Darren that are already using these joint solutions. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk about it. Also, please feel free to check out brontosummit.com/survey. We really want your feedback on these sessions. The name of this session, again, was Personalized Triggered Emails. So let us know what you thought of John and Darren. We really use this feedback to make sure that Bronto Summit